Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm Michael LeBlanc, NRF Top Retail Voice for 2026 and Rethink Retail 2026 Top Retail Expert. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Trinadha, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you?
I'm excellent, Michael. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, you and I crossed like ships passing in the night or passing in the casino, I guess. You and I were almost together, very close proximate to each other at Shop Talk in Las Vegas last week, but we couldn't make it happen. We're both busy schedules, so thanks so much for making time to join me on the mic the week after Shop Talk. How are you?
I'm excellent. Yeah, looks like we missed each other, but it's been a crazy, fun ride in Vegas last week with a ton of content around agentic commerce and AI and agents. I'm sure you had an opportunity to enjoy that show.
Well, it's hard to miss it. I mean, everything's AI, right, these days. I guess the good news is, I don't know, let's talk about Shop Talk for a few minutes, but my perspective was there was less talk about what was to come, and I saw more vendors, suppliers, and retailers talking about what's actually happening and what's actually coming to fore. We talked to, my partner and I talked to the president of Sierra, for example, and they're doing some higher end, way past just triage kind of chat. Did you have that sense as well? I mean, you're a keen observer of these things. So what was your vibe? What was your sense of the show?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, takeaway for me of the theme that kind of occurred last week was whole agentic commerce, especially given the retail business and everything. Agentic commerce has definitely moved from the initial piloting, conceptualization to actual execution and operations. Mm-hmm. And there are a few brands that were on the main stage last week who has announced their AI shopping agents. It clearly shows that brands definitely moved beyond piloting into execution. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for me.
Right. We're going to talk a lot more about AI as we get into personalization and kind of the meat of the topic here. So I had the. Listen, it stumbled out of the gates, right? I mean, let me ask you this question. We were just talking about hockey off mic, and let's assume AI is an NFL football game. What quarter are we in? Are we in the first half, the second half? Are we at the kickoff? Are we at the final moments of the final 2 minutes down? Where are we in your view of the evolution for retailers?
I would say it's the first half. Okay. Definitely, I think as I said earlier, definitely brands have moved from the kickoff stage to the first half. Many brands are launching AI capabilities at scale. So I think in the next 12 to 18 months, it's going to be very interesting to see the results that's coming out of these brand investments that are going into the AI,
right?
Which is what probably you can kind of call as the second half.
Yeah. I was thinking we're at least out of the huddle, right? We're at least there's a game plan. And now we've fumbled the ball a couple of times. Anyway, we could talk about this for hours. I've jumped right in. Introduce yourself to the audience. Who are you, and what do you do for a living, and who do you do it for?
Trinadha Kandi, retail and a customer transformation leader. I work at Deloitte. My career has been rooted, Michael, at the intersection of data, AI, and marketing. I had an opportunity to work across a range of retail and consumer brands. Over the past several years, I led teams that were responsible to drive customer engagement, personalization, business outcomes, and growth by leveraging technology, data, and AI. And I also advise some of Deloitte's global retail and luxury brands, everything around the marketing and digital transformation, primarily drawing the insights from the research, what I co-lead, that includes the Deloitte's The Future of Luxury Marketing, which we recently published.
That's a great report.
Personalization. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Personalization is another area of my focus. We continue to publish the latest trends around the personalization topic.
Well, you're not my first guest from Deloitte. Ira Kalish has been a frequent guest to get his perspectives on the global economy. But just in case not everyone listening knows the scope and scale of Deloitte, how big are you, and what markets? You're obviously in Canada, we know, but in terms of size, just a minute or two about so everybody's oriented to how impressive an organization Deloitte is.
Yeah. So, Michael, as you said, Deloitte is one of the big, I would say, largest professional services firm out there, consulting firm out there. We provide audit, tax, and consulting and advisory services to major global clients, and we operate globally. In fact, we operate around 150 countries, specializing around strategy, technology, and risk management. The core capabilities and services what we offer to our clients is tax and legal, audit and assurance, risk and financial advisory, and consulting and strategy. So I am part of our consulting business. Within that, we have a Deloitte Digital, which largely focuses around digital marketing, AI, commerce, customer experience capabilities.
Right on. And where am I finding you today?
I live in Atlanta. I'm
wonderful.
calling in from Atlanta.
Fantastic. All right, well, let's get into the meat of the topic here. You've been at this intersection of, as you described, data and AI. AI is not new. Marketing. You've been talking to many clients. So, one of the things that I continue to think about is I've been into the retail and personalization since Rogers and Peppers. I mean, I was at Levi's. We started an intimacy program in 97, 98. And I thought we'd be a lot farther on than we are today in terms of personalization. What do you think that the industry is missing or perhaps misunderstood about personalization over the past number of years?
Many companies out there, or brands or retailers, have largely confused, not in recent times, but over a period of time, in the last decade or so, has largely confused personalization with simply increasing volume, right? Like, which is sending the number of messages to the customers. It was always about the volume. But the real personalization, as we know now, is about truly recognizing customer preferences and context and timing, which means it's just more than the communication. It's more about what we call as a deeper relevance. It's about creating and orchestrating the moments that feel uniquely relevant and timely for each individual customer, right? So in my view, the personalization should be more about fostering lasting customer relationships, not just optimizing immediate transactions.
It's an interesting idea because you do kind of get caught up in being campaign focused, right? Who's the best target for a particular campaign? I'm launching a new product or I'm trying to grow a category. So talk about operationally the difference between the two, because I think what you're saying is the iterative nature sometimes overwhelms the broader customer strategy. Yeah,
I think you are hitting on the right point around how when we look into the different client organization archetypes, and largely the marketing functions have been designed at a channel level, and which means every channel, like as an example, email, right, or a search as an channels, every function will operate at basically at a channel campaign level. And that actually creates a silos for the brands to truly deliver a seamless and orchestrated omnichannel experience to their consumers. Okay. Now this is where we kind of look into this, like targeting versus personalization, right? So to your point, the targeting is all about segmenting audiences, like and delivering the messages based on the demographic data, right? Whereas the personalization really goes further. It takes advantage of your first party data, like truly having the customer data to anticipate the needs and adapts the messaging and offers in real time, which makes each interaction and experience is individually personalized craft for the audiences. It is also, I kind of an advocate as personalization shouldn't be a project mindset. It should be a journey mindset because it requires a commitment from top down and for not only for an ongoing investments and learning around the data and tech and people and process, but also having a culture of experimentation is what kind of makes stand out for the leaders when it comes to the true personalization, real personalization versus targeting.
So, I mean, what you're describing is a customer strategy. Like it is grow share of wallet, whatever kind of behavior versus whatever kind of channel metric or channel that you're driving. Now, a lot of, and I've done this in the past to retailers, and it's not cheap. There's all this sounds great, but it takes, less now with cloud computing, and there's some other things that make it a little easier. We'll talk about AI in a minute. But what's the business case? Because sometimes businesses do struggle with, spending millions of dollars and millions of dollars of cash on building the infrastructure for personalization. And then sometimes, you sometimes, what's the ROI on that? What's the incremental benefit? That measurable incremental benefit. So speak to how you get around, or when you talk to retail clients, how you encourage them to invest and keep investing in personalization.
Let me start with sharing a couple of stats from Deloitte's the last study around the personalization. Mm-hmm. I think when we did our study, what we found was like nearly 3 in 4 customers are more likely to purchase from the brands that deliver personalized experiences, which means they are technically spending almost 37% more with the brands that are truly delivering personalization. Now, which is what actually kind of ensures the customer affinity and advocacy and loyalty to the brands that are truly delivering the personalization. And when we really look at the brands that are doing well in the personalization, again, tying back to the business case and ROI that you're talking about compared to the peers, we have seen like almost 48% of the brands who have invested in personalization, when they got the personalization done right, they have like almost 48% reported they have exceeded their revenue goals. And 71% reported they have seen improved loyalty, the customer loyalty rates. Okay, but overall speaking, now if you kind of say, hey, translate that into some core KPIs, like tangible KPIs, like your conversion, retention, like customer lifetime value, and all of that, and all of them, and I can share one of the client that Deloitte had an opportunity to work. A large retailer who had invested in the omnichannel personalization in the last few years, and they have seen an incremental revenue, a significant incremental revenue based on the personalization efforts, true personalization efforts. And brands have seen almost up to 20% of lift in the conversion rates. And again, a significant lift in the average basket size or average order value also. Again, all of this are tied back to the tactics that they have employed on the personalization around the omni-channel level, not a single channel level, right? Again, it stemmed from the investments, what they made in modernizing their technology and data stack, and also having advanced analytics, AI, in fact, ML models, machine learning models, that helped them to truly deliver the personalized offers in every touch point, in every journey touch point, kind of help them to see the ROI.
I when I have these kind of discussions, sometimes I wouldn't say accused of, but challenged by the notion that I've got the causality wrong, that what we're thinking about is they're great shoppers to begin with. You didn't make them great shoppers. In other words, we're mixing up cause and effect. Do you see any of that in there? And how do you recommend retailers measure? Is it a control group? Do you set aside a bunch of people? You get very mathematical and statistical about it? Like, what's the answer to a culture that says, I think they would have done that anyway because they just love us?
That's a great question, Michael. Again, I would like to, before I answer that to your question, I also want to kind of share this with you as part of the research what we have done. We have also noticed same time that there is what we call as a personalization gap. Um, what brands perceive that they have done or they're doing personalization right to what end customers or consumers
that's a great point,
receive as the personalization.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there is I think we saw almost like 35 to 40% variation on the expectations, how the expectations mismatched between brands and consumers, and we call it a personalization gap. Now, how retailers or brands can do better, everything what you said, right? It's not just the focus groups, but also really leveraging their first-party data, the customer data, statistical modeling, and really going through test and learn, right? Continuous experimentation mode to see what experience and offer hits to the right segment of the customers to drive the lift. This is the reason why I keep going back, Michael, to my comment earlier. It shouldn't be considered as a project. It is a multi-year journey for the brands to truly realize the value of the personalization. Because we have seen many times brands who have invested significant amount of money and time and effort in modernizing the tech or data stacks and kind of having these big ambitions around personalization North Star. But after like 12 months or so, and they come back and say, we are not seeing any results. Okay. Did we make a mistake? So I think it is a journey. It takes a couple of years for the brands to truly see the true value of the return. But now I think all of us, as we are living in AI world, now there is a higher chance for brands to accelerate the efforts and hope to see those results much quicker than to wait for 3-4 years down the line.
Well, let's get into it. I mean, we started talking a little bit about AI, but and listen, I've gone through a few cycles. Boy, when we get cloud computing, personalization is going to get real at scale. When we get, it's not my first rodeo on this. I hear the same thing about AI. I talk to retailers who say AI is just going to get us to the wrong place faster if we're not careful. But when you think about AI and is it the final nirvana of personalization? And talk about that. Is it real, or how much of it is hype, and how much of it depends on your data hygiene? Like, are companies prepared for the power of AI?
So let me respond to that. I think, as you rightly pointed, Michael, we have seen transformations. It could be digital transformation, now like cloud, and now AI. In every transformation, one of the common theme or mistake what we see is not everyone, but majority of the brands or the companies out there take marketing spin when the vendors kind of promises quick win on these transformations. But we all know that technology alone is not the solution, cannot be the answer. Even in the technology transformation initiatives, we've seen it is all about transforming the ways of working across cross-functional teams in every brand, which means it is a more than technology. It is a people and process and ways of working and org and change management. The same thing, the same rule applies to even to AI. Even for AI to deliver, we see the brands and businesses need to break down the silos, right? And bring, I think you hit on the right point, like, and having a right data foundation is critical for AI to be successful. and also having the fostering the cross-functional team collaboration is very important. So in a way, I kind of see is AI isn't a plug and play solution. And we have seen the brands who are taking the approach of this is just another add-on are failing fast when it comes to AI compared to brands who are really reimagining their business process, right? And then bringing AI in the front and center of the reimagined process are seeing the results. Success, actually, I mean.
If I gave you or gave people with you a whole bunch of money to start a retailer, and you were start and set up an organization that would optimize AI, and I've heard different companies approach this at different things. Some have a C-level executive with AI in their title, and they're dedicated to advocating for AI, teaching about AI. All AI decisions roll up to them. And I've talked to other retail leaders who have, said, well, we're not going to be, we don't want to centralize. It's like, for a while there, you've been around a while, there's this whole, sometimes it got into chief customer officer, and they made all the decisions around the customer, and all the merchants would say, well, I own the customer. Who owns the customer? And so there's these two broad schools of thought. If I gave you a magic wand and I said you could set up any organization and any retailer, what would be your preferred organization?
I think AI goes beyond customer experience. In many brands, in enterprises, and even retailers, it's not just a front office transformation alone, it also touches the back office transformation. So you are looking at AI as an enterprise capability, not necessarily as a customer experience or a marketing capability. From that standpoint, and again, to your point, there are brands approaching this differently. Again, there's no right or wrong answer here, but more and more we are seeing some of the global large brands are largely pivoting towards a model where they have AI as a centralized function, center of excellence, you want to call us. However, you have a hub and spoke model, which means you are letting the functional teams, it could be marketing, product, sales, customer service, any of the functions can still have a say on what capabilities that they want to prioritize for them to leverage AI. But the centralizing decisioning power resides within the hub. The hub is usually reports into AI leader.
It's someone who's steeped in that. Yeah. Somebody who's like they're going to say you could solve this problem with AI, or you're overthinking this problem. This is not a technology problem. This is a culture issue, that kind of thing, right? So I have a bit of a philosophical question for you. So, in the early days of e-commerce, and I was there in the early days, like it took $1 million just to take a credit card. So e-commerce started as just the purview of very, very large enterprises. But then organizations like ShopTalk kind of leveled the playing field, right? It was e-com for everybody. All you needed is a monthly fee, and then it became more important what your strategy was. Do you see a point where everybody gets onto this AI, and then it just levels the playing field again, and it becomes, instead of a differentiator, it becomes table stakes, and we're really no farther ahead? Or do you think there's a genuine opportunity here for now and in the future to really, put outsized results versus your competitor by really adopting these various personalization and AI strategies?
I think AI is going to become table stakes, and I think it is getting to that point where it will truly touch every business process of any enterprise. And so the only differentiation that I see is that in the specific to marketing, because that's where I spend most of my time, the key is the blending AI with an authentic brand storytelling, which is really having a human touch. And to an extent, by the way, some of the brands that we work with have already started down this path of training their AI models, not just to understand the customer preference, but also training them to their own brand tone and value. So that becomes like, and like I said, right, um, it needs to feel genuine, not generic. So I think that's what probably is going to make certain brands stand out when it comes to operationalizing AI to others.
Okay. Last question for you. And thanks. You've been very generous with your time and insights. I just want to turn the dial a little bit, 180 degrees, and get a few words on how you think marketers in retail should be prioritizing, thinking about how customers are using AI to discover retail, discover product. We've seen the AI platforms stumble a bit, really, in terms of their execution of retail. Pulling it into the cart, out of the cart. What do you think brand retailers should be thinking about the most in terms of how they get discovered and how they work with the AI platforms?
In fact, last year at the eTail Boston conference, I had an opportunity to speak on this very topic around search advertising. And I even met last week at Shop Talk, and we are seeing how many brands are truly investing their marketing dollars in search and social, and more importantly, AI-powered solutions. So what I would say, Michael, is I think brands need to be proactive in optimizing their presence, and more importantly, engaging where their customers are discovering the product, which is from a discoverability standpoint. But more at the same time, also investing in conversational AI, I think is important. Investing in optimizing their content for discoverability is important. And also at the same time, leveraging data to anticipate customer needs. Right? I would kind of call this three things, which is what I said. One is optimizing the content for discoverability, investing in conversational AI, and leveraging data to anticipate the customer needs. I think most important is the brands should foster the dialogue in the community, not just to present, but actively shape the discovery journey. And there are brands that are actually doing that. I have started doing that through a continuous learning and adapting to the conversations.
All right. Well, listen, this has been a great discussion. If people want to get a hold of you and learn more and tap into your expertise, where should they go? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you a LinkedIn guy? Or you obviously Deloitte.com, but talk about how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I am on LinkedIn, but I would definitely recommend people to visit DeloitteDigital.com, because that we continues, as probably you know this already, Michael, that we continuously publish a ton of research and insights around, I think, on AI for sure, but also the topics around the luxury marketing, personalization, broader retail and consumer trends. So I would say DeloitteDigital.com is probably the place.
All right. Thanks so much for joining me on the Voice of Retail podcast. Real treat to chit and chat with you. Maybe next time we'll do it in person at an upcoming conference. It'd be great to meet you in person and tap into more of your expertise. But for now, thanks for joining me on the Voice of Retail podcast.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you in person, Michael. Again, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, follow on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically each week. And be sure and check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast with Steve Dennis and the Global E-Commerce Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, Senior Retail Advisor, Keynote Speaker,